Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so Lakers got some new jerseys and a new floor. We got an alternate floor. We've been asking for an alternate floor for a long time now. I think they saw the in-season tournament floor be a raging success with the fans, and they decided to give us a floor, man. It's a black one. It looks a little Sacramento Kings-ish to me, to be honest with you, but I like it a lot. I'm not down on it. I just think that we've seen the color scheme look a little bit like the Kings alternate floor, but it has a big LA in the front of it, and then the fade of black to purple that you're going to see on the new jerseys is on the sidelines, and I think that looks really cool. Has a big LA in the middle of the floor, and the jerseys have Lake Show on it. It says Lake Show. We've seen the leaks, and the leaks did not look as impressive as they do today, and the players are wearing them. D-Lo gives you the full look with the post that I saw on Instagram and Facebook, shows that the shorts are really good looking shorts to go along with the jersey. I really like it, man. I think the whole look is good, really good, and hopefully we can continue to implement alternate floors from here on out. I like it. I of course want to keep the same floor that we have as a mainstay, but putting in one or two different alternate floors a year, or maybe keeping some of the new alternate floors for some time, is a good thing. Yeah, I love it. I like the idea of variety in that way, so long as the variety is a positive variety, for which it seems like we're doing. I like the black, and I think it's something that we could continue to kind of build upon. So that's what I wanted to start off by saying. Just kudos to everybody who designed those things. I'm a believer in what you did there. I like it. So I've been listening to the Talking Heads talking about the Lakers. Of course, we don't play again until Thursday in Milwaukee. I want to send prayers out to everybody who's dealing with storms. I know that Florida right now is getting hit with something big. So if you're watching me from Florida, just know that I'm praying for you, and I want you to get out of there if you're in the line of that. I don't know where all my Laker fans are from, but that's definitely something I've been paying attention to this morning as well. So prayers out to everybody affected by that. But we're going to be in Milwaukee. Hopefully that's nowhere near any line of tough stuff for our players. But that game is going to be coming up, I think, at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern, I believe it is. Not 100% sure about that. But we're going to see our team go up against what I think will be a very intentional, that's the word I've been using, Milwaukee club. And that's probably going to be looking to express a chip that they have on their shoulder. I don't think preseason is important in terms of wins and losses in most situations, but I'm a believer in young players and rookie coaches getting early wins so that they're not chasing them, so they're not losing sleep over whether or not what they're doing is going to translate to success on this professional level. So I think that is important for just the morale, and that's really where I'm most focused on. I think a lot of people are talking about the play styles and the implementation of more solidified roles, and all of that stuff is extremely encouraging and important. And I think it will translate to people being settled in a traditional chemistry way. It can help a lot when people know where they're at, know where they're going, and know what they're supposed to be doing at a given moment on the basketball floor. It makes your profession easier, which translates to you enjoying yourself or being able to handle difficult times a bit more smoothly. So all of that is extremely important. But that the chemistry and the sensitivity of the chemistry is kind of what I'm paying attention to. It's not as much as what we're doing out there from a schematic standpoint, but how we're doing out there as it pertains to managing the difficulties of what our roster construction is right now. And listening to some real basketball heads, they were saying that good things are happening on that front too. That they see people handling circumstances pretty well. So maybe I'm just projecting something out that I think could be a problem that isn't one. But, you know, I tell you what I see, and I pointed out some body language concerns, particularly when Bronny James had checked into the game. Someone had checked out. I didn't think their body language was all that great. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, I think the team at the end of the day is new. Even though it's a lot of guys being brought back, they're being asked to do different things. And all of the conversation coming out of those players in regards to the things that they're being asked to do is refreshing. They're all very encouraged. They all feel like they have some sense of direction. And that can't help but be a positive thing. So that's great. You know, in listening to some of those Laker talking heads, they were essentially saying that Lakers are looking to switch more defensively, so we're going to look and see if that's a positive thing. We do have some guys who are very good defensively. We have some guys that are very deficient defensively. So in switching, we could find ourselves, depending on the lineup, not better for doing so. I think in most situations, it makes it easier to keep up with everything that's going on when you're switching. But as Sean Davis said this morning, there are circumstances where if someone switches off to somebody they can't defend and they try to reset that situation between another player, that split second when you're trying to make that arrangement could potentially leave somebody open, could potentially create problems for you on the defensive end. So we just got to figure out our defensive schemes, master those schemes, and put ourselves in the strongest position to cut down on any possible mistakes. So that'll come with time. That comes with practice. That comes with the team ultimately putting themselves in the strongest position to see repetition in regards to what they're doing. And the more people do what it is that they're set to do, the better they'll be at in improvising within what it is they have to do, I think. So hopefully that translates to our team handling those type of situations very well. 3-point diet. And we talked a lot about that. And I think most of the people who I've been listening to are saying the same thing I'm saying. We want to take more threes, but we don't want to take threes that are forcing shots just for the sake of reaching a certain quota. You know, we definitely understand that the Lakers averaged probably like 32 3 attempts in the last season. We were a fantastic interior scoring team, but it didn't always translate to us winning basketball games because the volume wasn't enough on the three ball to match the other team, especially when you're going up against the Bostons and the Denvers who are going to attempt above 43s a game. So in looking at the situation, you definitely want to up your attempts, but you don't want to just jack them up to be jacking them up, because in the professional level, every possession really does count. So it's more so for me about having a balance between upping our attempts and keeping each possession quality. So my solution, or what I think would be the best way to handle that, is to run plays for threes. When we're looking to get a three, run plays for threes rather than just asking guys to step into open shots, walking the ball up and stuff like that. I don't particularly think those threes are very good unless those players have that skill set in their wheelhouse. D'Lo definitely does. But even so, you end up throwing away possessions if that player doesn't hit that shot or rebound the long shot. So that's something that we just want to find some balance in regards to. I definitely agree that upping our attempts gives us a better chance of keeping up with teams that score a lot. That's definitely something that we understand. You know, you can have the most efficient interior scoring game, but you're not going to get more than 100 points in the paint. And a lot of these games that we're in goes up to 130, 135 points. And the reason being is because the other team is attempting so many more threes. So I think that, you know, we're working out the kinks now, but as I said in one of my previous videos, there are going to be some times where we revert back to what it is we're used to doing, because we really did, over the last 2 years, train ourselves to be in a team that doesn't shoot very much. And in not shooting very much, we were more efficient from behind the arc because we took more quality threes. So that was one thing about Darvin Ham's system that I thought was something very good for this rosters unit. But just the same, I think we have more capable three-point shooters in rotation this year than maybe we had in the previous 2 or 3 years. You implement Dalton Connect into the equation. Gabe Vincent, if his three ball can fall, for which it did in Miami a little bit, more than it did for us, to say the least, last year, in very limited sample size. But You know, if we can get Max Christie, who wasn't on the floor much last year, to attempt threes. Rui Hachimura is already a pretty efficient three-point shooter. Bron has upped his percentage quite a bit over the last 3 years. D'Lo clearly is a shooter. AD, as we said, we want him to take quality three-point shots. Probably about 3 a game would be good for him, or maybe even 4 or 5, depending on how he's hitting them. These are the type of things that, just by default, if everybody's taking the threes that they probably should, we'll have more attempts just off of the strength of the personnel being more capable of shooting and hitting shots from behind the arc. So I just think we'll have more three-point shooters on the floor at a given moment this year than maybe the last 3-4 years. So running plays that allow them to get those looks probably plays into their strengths. So yeah, that's something to consider. You know, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and he's in the first game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, of course, we were raving about what we saw from him. He didn't turn the ball over, got some assists off, had a few stumbles, but ultimately was able to make something good of those circumstances, which is an encouraging thing to me as well. As the good stuff that he did out there, even when he made mistakes, he tend to fall on the ground and would pass very accurately to somebody open. So he really had his goggles on display, so to speak. His floor vision was really shining in that first preseason game. What I want to see is him kind of get back to more sequences where he can control the offense. Because at the end of the day, if that's going to be a strength of his, he's going to make other people better while he's on the floor with them. Synergy with other players, we pointed out in one of the videos as well. That's something I'm thinking about too. He has good synergy with certain players, it seems. So trying to pair him up with those players to see if that can be a continuous thing is probably the way to go. So, yeah, I really like what I saw from Jalen in the first game. The second game kind of got away from some of the things that we had him doing. Try to have him scoring a bit more, which is fine. I think scoring is a part of what he does. It's natural for him to look for opportunities to get buckets, but it's the type of buckets that he takes that ultimately will determine how efficient of a scorer he'll be. And I think his more natural way of doing things is probably pick and roll, passing offense, and then working the option of the mid-range shot off of some of those pick and roll situations, for which we see looks really good. He's already hit about 3 of those or 4 of those in the preseason first 2 games. I think those shots will be something that Laker fans will come to know him for. And they look good, man. They didn't look good last year when he took them, but you could tell he's really been working on his jump shot since coming back from the surgery, the back surgery. And man, I want to see him in positions to take much more of those in the preseason. So, I want to see him with the ball in his hands. I do. I want to see Jalen Hood-Schifino get ample opportunities with second units. I want to see him on the floor with AD, start to build some chemistry there. Because if you find yourself with an injury to D'Lo or injury to Austin, you're going to see him on the floor with some of your main guys. And so that's why I think getting him used to playing with those guys sooner than later is probably the best bet for the Lakers. And not forget that even though his value dropped quite a bit last year with a bad rookie season, he was drafted to be the 17th overall pick, which would project him to be one of your main guys off the bench when he fully develops. So as a point guard, you want him to have synergy with everybody on the floor. And if his vision is as good as it looked in that first game, he's going to build chemistry with some of the other guys that ultimately are going to require someone to set them up. So the sooner we start working in those opportunities and those floor minutes with those other offensive guys, scoring guys, I think the better we'll have a floor general out of Jalen Hood-Schifino. So I'm not of the mindset that he should be in the regular rotation if we do shrink it to 9 necessarily. I think Gabe Vincent probably takes some of those minutes and you just run with Austin Reeves as your backup point guard as well. But for me, I think Jalen Hood-Schifino is probably going to project to be a more effective defensive guy than Austin Reeves. I think Austin shows a lot of other intangibles, but Jalen is just going to be a bit more sound defensively, in my opinion. So, if Jalen has a really good year, I could totally see him stealing minutes from guys like that just off of the strength of his two-way ability. So that's a need for the Lakers. I want him to have a lot of minutes in the preseason, so that we can get the most out of this kid, see exactly what he needs to work on, see where he's already strong. Clearly the work ethic is there, because you can see the jump from last year to this year in spite of the injury. So imagine how he would have been if he wouldn't have had it. I just think that this is the type of person that you could see the makings of him being able to develop the right habits. And from here, I think we'll be surprised that he could be better than we think. I think he could be better than most people think. And so that's why I want to give him opportunities. I'm a believer in big guards to begin with. I'm a believer in pass first point guards when they have the ability to score, especially if they can stretch it out to the 3-point line, which we know he's able to do. So yeah, I like it. I like the player. Also, moving on back to our young players, I often like to pay attention to Dalton Knecht. You know, I just want to continue to see us trust him to be a scorer for us. I put him on the floor with players that can help him defensively and let him shoot the ball repeatedly. Let him get into his spots and find a rhythm in early situations. I know I'm recapping a lot of what has already been said, but these are the things that are truly on my mind. I want him to get earlier opportunities to find rhythm. And just like we look for AD to find rhythm, you got to find Dalton in these situations as well, so that he can put himself in the strongest position to be hot early. And he can blow a game open, especially with Bron and AD more than capable of blowing games open. You now have a third player, in my opinion, outside of D'Lo, of course, you want to give him credit too, that can blow a game wide open. If Dalton gets hot early, he can string together a 15-point quarter. I know people think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I'm really not. I think this is somebody who projects to be a very lethal scorer from all three levels. And because he has explosiveness to his interior attack, he don't have too many holes scoring the ball, man. There ain't too many holes. It's not like he's what I like to call a layup merchant. He's not. He's dunking the ball on your head. So when you consider the players that have that ability, coupled with all the stuff that he can do from behind the arc and around the rim and around the mid-range area, free throw line, I just think the Lakers are going to take so much pressure off of other scorers if we can get this guy into his best rhythm early in the season. We get him to being as confident as he needs to be, and we're going to win games off of the strength of the power of his scoring ability at times. And you know, how you get a guy started off and what he gets used to in terms of usage and the faith that's being applied to him, I think will determine just how much he can give you. You know, there are a lot of players who could do certain things that he's done that didn't really have the faith in them because of the other weaknesses in their game and stuff like that. Defensively, particularly, I think of a guy like TJ Warren, who can be a lethal scorer from all three levels before the injuries hit, had some explosiveness to a degree, not nearly as much as Dalton, but point is, you see guys who've been ridiculous scorers come into this league, but not necessarily have the faith from their coaches. I don't want to go down that path with Dalton. I want to have faith in him early. I understand his limitations. I also believe that we have some players that can help mask some of those, especially on the defensive end when we get Vando back. So if we can get him on the floor with Vando, have him have some minutes with AD, good defensive players, Max Christie on the floor with Dalton Knecht a lot of the time. That's what I want to see. And if I can, I don't know if this looks good in real life, but in my mind, based on the weaknesses of the players, I'd like to alternate D'Lo Austin minutes with Knecht minutes. I think that's how I want to do. I don't really need all three of them on the floor at any given moment, but when those two sit down, Knecht comes in, or when one of them sits down, Knecht comes in, that kind of thing, so that we always have lethal shooting on the floor as we start to alternate more defensive-minded players into the situation. You always have that go-to scorer on the floor who's not reliant upon cutting down on his defensive mistakes in order to be a contributor to quality minutes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so altering them to me, seems like it might look better than asking them all to be on the floor at the same time for the sake of just how elite your offense could potentially look. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are pointing out. So Lakers have elite offense. Yeah, but it balances out because we have below average defense when those players are on the floor. I'd rather forego some of that elite offensive ability so that I can have a little more balance on both sides of the floor. And we can up our transition opportunities. It's going to translate to us getting easy buckets any damn way. So you can have 5 players that can stretch the floor, but if none of them can defend, you're just going to give up every single point that you ultimately acquire with those guys. It can't be a layup line down there. So we don't have to do that. We have defensive players on the floor. We have a few two-way guys on the floor. And we can put ourselves in the strongest position to have some balance out there if we just find the rotations that ultimately work. So hopefully JJ will help us by experimenting throughout the preseason and early season with lineups that ultimately give him a bit more balance than Darvin Ham was allowing himself to have. And in the event that we find the stuff that works, I think it'll translate to maybe us being a little lesser offensively, but much more capable on both sides in the long run. So balance is what the Lakers need, man. Balance. And in finding that balance, I think we'll ultimately find ourselves one of the better teams out there with the upside of our core and with the the potential of the ceiling of all of our young players. So, I'm encouraged by the ball movement, player movement, as we talked about in the past. The Lakers didn't necessarily find themselves being a great off-ball team in the past, but with the plays that we seem to be running and the style that we seem to be using right now, I think that's going to change. I think it's going to change rather quickly. So I'm very excited about Darvin Ham being gone and JJ Redick being in place to implement more of those off-ball, ball movement type of plays. And I think you're already seeing that. You're seeing it in the beginning of the preseason, so it can only get better from here. It's something that JJ said that stood out. He was essentially telling us in regards to the first game, that was not a game plan game, meaning that he didn't implement a set of things that he was trying to do to stop the team that was coming at us. If anything, he was just throwing guys out there to see what they can do and try to work in some of our most basic plays. As we get further into the season, I do believe that you're going to see him and his team of coaches work more of game plan-like activity into the specifics of who we're facing. And that was one of the things I said that we had trouble with last year. I don't think we scouted very well from team to team. We kind of went in with hypothetical understandings and basing our game plan around what it looked like personnel could do on paper as opposed to what the data had showed them from previous games. And that's what it's about. It's about doing your homework and then strategizing not for what you think the team can do based on who's on the team, but what the team has done based on what it is that you've seen, and that homework that you've done. And that's ultimately what I think JJ is going to be able to really help us with in improving this team overall. Last year, I just thought some of our game plans were not catered to what was actually happening. I harken back to the Philadelphia game where we lost by 44 points on the road. We were game planning for the idea that they were going to score in the paint. But in doing homework, leading into that game, we saw that the Philadelphia 76ers had been launching threes for the last couple of weeks leading into the game we were in. They had been launching 50 threes. You know what I mean? And Darvin and the coaching staff had us leaning into the idea that they were going to be scoring in the paint because they had Joel Embiid. It's like, just because they have that player does not mean that's what they've been doing. I mean, you game planning for the idea of their roster, not necessarily for the strategy that they've been using. And you walking in blind. And it spoke to a lazy game plan, a lazy game planning strategy. And I just don't want to see any of that. And I don't expect that I will. Based on the content that JJ put out before he became a coach, you can see that wasn't his mindset. He actually likes to dig into the teams that he's going up against. He's done homework on these teams for years. So he knows the importance of updating your data as it pertains to the teams and what you're going up against. And so if we can continue to just see that implemented into his coaching style, I think it will be much more prepared for the teams that we face at a given moment. We won't be hopping up saying, well, because they have De'Aaron Fox, they're probably just going to be running at the rim. Like, you don't know what the hell they're doing if you don't watch the footage. That may be something they can do, but that ain't what the coach has been doing. You want to be able to game plan for what you know is coming at you, not for what you think could be. You know, and there's a difference. It's called doing homework and then strategizing off of that homework. So, you know, I just think the Lakers are in a space where we can have more confidence in our coach. I think that's what it really comes down to. Even though he's a rookie, you can already see through 2 preseason games that he has the tendencies to provide a team a bit more stability. You know, you hear I was listening to Trevor Lane this morning. He's pointed out a quote that AD had said that, you know, everybody kind of has a set place. They know where they need to be. So for the young players, it's much easier. They don't have to do too much thinking. You know, they don't have to try to improvise because there is no game plan, or because that game plan has so many different variations of choice that you just got to figure out what the hell you want to do. It's like, nah, that guy goes there, that guy goes there, that guy goes there. And if he's not there, then he ain't doing what he's supposed to be doing. Like, that's the type of instruction and direction that you want to provide a team that has a bunch of developing players. So I really like that. We're basing what we're doing off of simple concepts at the moment, and then I believe we'll start looking at data as it comes, and hopefully the team will strategize for that data. So and with the concepts of where people are supposed to be and stuff like that, we will already have a layout for how everything else manifests from there. So I just like it. I think most people who are paying attention to this really like what we're seeing. It's still extremely early. There are a lot of other things to assess that are not possible at the moment, like how you deal with difficulties, how you deal with certain injuries, how you improvise when things are chaotic. It's a lot of stuff that we just can't assess right now. But based on what is available to us, I think JJ is really won over a lot of people, and it's going to continue to so long as he keeps this up. So, you know, and I like the quick improvement from game 1 to game 2. Things that he said he wanted to see improvement on, we saw direct improvement on those things, and that shows us how attentive and locked in the team is. And I hope that he's able to keep that attention from these guys throughout the course of the season, because if he does, this is going to be a well-oiled machine. So, yeah, man, it's a lot to consider. You know, we do have some things to work on as it pertains to the improvement of our roster. We know that. But as we say every day, it may not be possible. So we'll live with what we have and try to get the most out of it. And in assessing how our performance was last year, always keeping in mind that there are certain things that we've improved upon just off the strength of who we brought in as a coach. We're not going to be leaning on certain things that yielded a lot of failure off of the strength of this coach being in place, I think. So only time will tell. But I was not a believer, and I think a lot of people were not believers in Darvin Ham. And I hate to harken back to Darvin Ham so much. It's such low-hanging fruit to do that. But that's really all we can do. We have a different coach now, and the best thing we can do is assess the team the same way as we did last year, based on the personnel not changing on the roster very much. And I think that's what those who would detract from the relevance of comparing Darvin to JJ will have to understand. There's only one real big change in regards to this team, and it is the coach. You know, we didn't move but a couple players. You know what I mean? So then it just becomes, how does this person deal with what is already in place better than the last person? That's a natural way of doing things. Now, if we had an entirely new roster, that wouldn't hold any weight. But the fact that we're bringing back most of the same role players, same core, yeah, that's exactly how you have to look at it, because you're taking the same stuff and you're saying, okay, do we have the same tendencies? How would this particular coach utilize this same roster? And so I think a lot of times we look lost out there. Darvin looked lost. There were times where Darvin even expressed he didn't necessarily know how to fix the problems in front of us. He would lose. We talking about listening rather to someone talk about on a podcast about how the Lakers didn't tend to go back to the same things that used to work all the time in terms of plays. Something would work, a team couldn't stop it, and we'd get away from it. We'd try something else that they maybe could stop, and then find ourselves giving back leads or being less invincible, so to speak. But as it pertains to running into the same team over and over again and failing to overcome stuff that we keep getting spammed against, we had no success. It was very frustrating to see us go away from things that work instead of doing them over and over again, and then in that same breath continue to get beat by the same teams over and over again. Like, that was a Darvin Ham trait, I believe. I don't think too many people are going to have those problems simultaneously. You know what I mean? And you run into the Denver Nuggets 12 times in a row and you don't find out, you don't devise anything that works. But in listening to people who understand this game talk about this roster, they bring up things that we haven't tried. They bring up rotation patterns that we'd never tried. It's like, if that's going to be the problem here, and we're going to leave so much meat on the bone as it pertains to different things that need to be tried, the problem is not the roster necessarily. The problem is how the roster is being utilized and the imagination of that coaching staff. So, yeah, man, that's really what it comes down to. If anything, we just feel real refreshed. I think a lot of Laker Nation, both players and fans, are refreshed by the nature of just a bit more logic being put into place in regards to how our roster is going to be utilized. Having confidence in the mind that's utilizing the situation, the roster, to take advantage of the team's strengths, to potentially revisit things that work, and to potentially learn from repetitive failure. If nothing else, learning. Damn it, if this person keeps kicking my behind with the same right hook 12 straight times, eventually it becomes a situation where you gotta question my intelligence if I ain't figured out how to counter that damn thing after 12 times getting knocked out by it. Damn. You know what I mean? And so for me, or even more so, I keep swinging my right hook and he don't never, ever find a way to duck out of that thing or to counter that thing. He don't do nothing but get hit by it, and I just go away from it and then proceed to get beat, never trying to use my right hook again. It's like, my God, man. And then both of them things going on at the same time? Nah, you got to get that person out there. And that's why I thought that we should have fired Darvin Ham a long time ago. It shouldn't have taken the offseason to do that. Once we start realizing that these two problems were consistently in place and we kept losing the same damn teams over and over and over again, it just becomes clear this person can't figure it out. And so hopefully with the hiring of JJ, you don't have that problem. Hopefully with the hiring of JJ, you can just bring yourself to a space of calm as it pertains to having faith in the person that's controlling the roster. So that's what it is for me, man. Relief. It hasn't led to success yet, but I think that's more, morale based rather than anything real, because you're going to get success if you're doing things the way we're doing it. But the sooner that success comes, the more confidence I think our unit will have, the more confident our coaching staff will be in themselves. And I think that goes a long way in our team being as good as it's going to be. So hopefully we can get this win against Milwaukee. And I hope our team is intentional on doing that. I hope they see the fruit in trying to get a victory here. It's preseason. It doesn't count in the standings, of course, but it matters. It really matters at this point. You don't want to start stringing together losing situations, chasing wins, wondering if you're going to have this problem in the preseason, having to, do mental acrobats to provide confidence where the wins are otherwise not. And you don't want that at all. You don't even want that having to be something that they have to manage. So we're doing good things. We're going up against a Milwaukee team that's pretty good, but I don't think Giannis going to play too much. I don't know that Bron and AD both will play. Maybe one of them doesn't. That's me guessing. I have no idea, though. But I think we can get to a space where you start to look into the team and see where we're knocking on the door for some success here. And, you know, a lot of people are saying the Lakers look great in the Phoenix game. So maybe that counts. Maybe I'm not accounting for just that being a win in and of itself. Knowing that if we have Bron and AD on the floor, they're going to drag us to wins no matter what. But I just don't see it that way necessarily. I do think that they can drag us to wins no matter what. But, I mean, a win is us having the lead at the end of the buzzer of a competitive basketball game. And so I think that's important. So, yeah, man. That's my thought. I don't know. There are other players to consider. I am looking forward to seeing how Jordan Crawford looks in our uniform, given that he was kicking our butt real bad when he played for the Memphis Grizzlies last year at the end of the season. If he can come in with that type of ability, I hear he's a good point of attack defender. He can shoot the three himself. You know, the guarantee that he makes the team isn't in place, but based on what I understand this player can bring to the table, I don't see why we can't use him, at least in the preseason, to kind of give ourselves what it is we're looking for here. You know, so that's somebody I'm actually looking very much forward to seeing. And hopefully we can get him some minutes against Milwaukee on the road. And so, yeah, that's definitely a thing. We got Golden State coming up, I think, after that. I believe it's the Warriors. And, you know, it's always intentional for us to try to have the upper hand against a team like that going into the season, knowing that we have to see them 4 times. You just want to draw first blood. You know, that last year we had a good start against the Phoenix Suns. I think we did lose the first game just like this past week, but after that we really had their number all the way through the in-season tournament. And so as I look forward to see what our team could look like, I think drawing first blood against some of these teams in the preseason can put us in the strongest position to have confidence against them in the regular season and maybe drawing first blood there. So the preseason this year kind of mirrors the preseason last year, playing some of the same teams we saw last year. Milwaukee, we saw them, I think, twice in the preseason and then didn't see them until the end of the season in the regular season. That was a very strange setup. I have to look at the schedule to see if it's the same way this year with that team. But again, they got us matched up with them in the preseason. So not a whole lot of variety there as it pertains to seeing different teams from this year to last year. We saw Golden State a bunch of times, Phoenix a bunch of times. This year we're going to see Golden State, Phoenix a bunch of times, Milwaukee. So it's like this is the same, almost the same schedule. And I don't know if there's a science behind that or if there's something business-wise behind some of these teams seeing one another in the preseason. It may very well be, but it's definitely something that I'm pointing out. And the schedule's damn near the same thing. And I think we saw Sacramento twice in the preseason last year, and I don't know that we have them on the preseason schedule this year. But yeah, man, that's the thing, believe it or not. So, you know, we just play who's in front of us, work our progressions, raise the value of our own talent, and then see what we can do in the trade market to improve our roster, because that's where we're going to shine. I think if we're able to maneuver around this horrible collective bargaining agreement that is really restricting a lot of player movement, and can raise the value of our talent and find a way to kind of move 2 for 1 in certain situations so that we can get that piece that I think we need, or those 2 pieces that I think we need, we could be right in a contender conversation once again, man. We really can. You know, but we're going to need some luck in the trade market, in my opinion, to get us over the hump. As right now, I think our ceiling is shy of the championship. And that's unfortunate for AD and Bron. They should be competing for a ring this season with as good as they look and how far into their careers they are. There should be nothing at all keeping them from competing for a championship together. So that's what it is. I think that's a far cry from what I've been saying. I don't think that that's feasible to do so long as everything costs first-round picks to make happen. But You know, there are players on this team at this point I would be willing to shop if it makes me better. And I don't know if I felt that way a couple months ago, but it just is what it is, man. We got to update our thoughts so that we can give ourselves the best opportunity if at all possible. And if it doesn't cost us picks, then it's probably worth doing, I think, depending on what's coming back, of course. So that's really what I got to say. I'm just rambling at this point. It ain't no new content until Thursday, really. And when we have that, of course, we'll be talking about it profusely. But for now, I think that's pretty much what I got to say, man. I would love to keep talking, but it's just going to be me rambling. So that's what I have. BDF 44. I thank y'all for watching.